Spielberg has to be one of my favorite directors, so I don't even need to know the story of a film because I know I'm going to see it if it's a Steven Spielberg directed film. That was the case with BFG too. I had no clue really what the BFG was about other than Big Friendly Giant. So, with that said, let's get into the story. The BFG follows a story of this young girl who lives in an orphanage. She's unhappy with her life. Pretty much everyone in the orphanage, it seems, doesn't really treat her right. And that's when she meets a giant. A giant pretty much snatches her out of the orphanage and takes her to Giant Land, essentially. And she slowly starts to realize that he's very different from all the other giants. He actually respects humans and doesn't eat them, unlike every other giant, pretty much. So this film basically is about their friendship that blossoms. And I have to say, it's very interesting. This film, I wasn't really expecting that much, other than I knew it was going to have Steven Spielberg's signature directorial flaw. And I have to say, I did enjoy the film. It was a very good family-friendly film. I saw this with my family, and I have to say, it was a good family-friendly movie. I really enjoyed watching it. But the film's main strength isn't just Steven Spielberg's directing, which, by the way, is great. It's the fact that Mark Rylance, who plays the BFG, gave it his all. He's coming straight out of Bridge of Spies, where he won Best Supporting Actor. And I have to say, his performance in this is just as good. Just the way he's looking at you, the way his characteristics are brought through, it's great. All through motion capture technology, and the motion capture here is flawless, I have to say. It feels very realistic, and I think that's probably because Steven Spielberg, at least it seems, used a lot of in-camera shots. And when you use a lot of in-camera shots with cinematography, it doesn't really feel fake when you bring forth motion capture because, especially with the way they edit it, it's cohesive. So props goes to the visual effects team, the directing, and of course the acting, especially by Mark Rylance. And John Williams has done the score for every single Steven Spielberg film except for Bridge of Spies last year, so it's good to see him back with doing the music for the BFG. And although it's not his best score, it was still a good score. It was a good enough score. It was serviceable, and I enjoyed listening to it with the film. There are a lot of things to like about this film, technically speaking, and although the story didn't captivate me as much as I was hoping, that's not to say it wasn't a captivating story for younger audiences. I'm sure that it probably is. But for me, it wasn't extremely captivating. It was serviceable. And that's just it, guys. In terms of negatives, this film is serviceable in terms of the actual story, for me at least. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a Steven Spielberg film, so your expectations are really high. So it's kind of like you need to lower them, except that props goes to it being family friendly. I love that main aspect about the film, but I also have to say the pacing of the film, and I've kind of noticed this about Steven Spielberg's films as of late, this film is kind of slow with pacing. The plot is does throw a lot at you, but the actual pacing is kind of slow, and that's not a bad thing per se, except that for me, I kind of wish that it was faster because it is a kid's movie, and so you kind of want the story to flow nicely, but it didn't really in this case. And something, the scope of the film really isn't that big. It's very small, and in most cases I'd be fine with that, except that this film is trying to perk your imagination, and for me it didn't really do that because the scope was so small. But nonetheless, guys, I do have to say the BFG is a diverting film, and I did enjoy it. The BFG gets a 4 out of 5 star rating from me. And I would definitely say watch it with your family if you get a chance. Although I will say, you probably won't remember the movie in a week. I know I probably won't. But nonetheless, guys, thank you very much for watching my review. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. And as always, thank you very much.